I want to talk about the toughest offenses to defend in 2024. Now, when we talk about toughest offenses to defend, we're speaking more specifically to the scheme. Personnel factors in, obviously, because it's about the Jimmies and Joes. But let's take a look at the X's and O's for a second here, man. Who will be the most difficult offenses to defend schematically this upcoming season? I think whenever you have this conversation, you would be irresponsible to not talk about the Wizard of Austin, which is, of course, Steve Sarkisian. Last year, they averaged 36 points a game. Keep in mind now, a handful of games during the season, they did not have their starting quarterback. So they had to find different ways to win, which is also probably a testament to Steve Sarkisian. They found ways to get it done without their QB1. I digress. The reason why Texas is so difficult to defend outside of just the players they have on that offense is what they do pre-snap. If you go back and watch the Alabama game, you'll see a lot of pre-snap shifts, especially from the wide receivers. Like they're changing their splits, they're changing their alignment. And when you're watching the broadcast, you're just like, okay, they're getting set, or they're getting reset, or they're checking to something. And while, at a face value level, that's true, as a defense, that is so difficult because whatever you just had called, depending on what you're running defensively, there's a chance now that you have to hit the reset button yourself. And when you're having to hit the reset button a few seconds before the snap, there is a higher likelihood that you're out of position. And we saw that multiple times for Texas against Alabama in week 2. I mean, it was catch him out of position, deep shot to Xavier Worthy. Like, there's a reason why he was as open as he was. Some of it's because Xavier Worthy is really freaking fast. The other part of it is there was a little bit of a coverage bust, a misalignment from Alabama in that game. Not because Alabama's bad on defense last year. It was more so because of what Texas did and what they dictated pre-snap. You think about Texas, you think about Sark, you think about quarterback play. That's not unfair to think about. But make no mistake about it, man. Like, Texas tough is a fair label to put on this operation out there. It is. Like, they want to run the football. If Steve Sarkisian can sit back there and run inside zone and run power and then run wide zone, like, he will do that all day long. He doesn't need to put up stats at the quarterback position. He's more than fine just making you say uncle and pounding the rock. Now, when they do that, when they have success running the football like they did a season ago and like I think they'll have again this upcoming year with the offensive line returning production, with C.J. Baxter back, they're going to have a chance now to have the RPO game start to kick up a little bit more as well. So, again, if he can run the football, they'll do that. But when those linebackers start to commit, boom, Jonte Cook right behind you. Boom, Isaiah Bond right behind you. Linebacker steps up, leave some real estate behind you. Quinn Ewers deliver a dart. We're off to the races and we're running. Because as a linebacker, man, you get tired of having to fill that hole for a 3-yard gain, 4-yard gain. At a certain point, you're like, man, forget this. I mean, I'm putting my face mask down. I see my key. I'm filling that hole. Like, let's go. Get a little bit over-aggressive. When that happens, again, that's when big plays happen for Steve Sarkisian. The last thing they do really effectively, Steve Sarkisian, and a lot of offensive coordinators do this, but I think Texas does it as well, if not better than anybody else. He will have a lot of counterplays off of staple plays. And what I mean by that is you will see Texas have a specific motion or a specific look offensively, and they'll gash with it a few times. And then they'll go tempo, line up in that same kind of looking play. The defense thinks they knows what's happening, and then something else happens the other way because instead of throwing that bubble, it's the bubble go. Instead of throwing that slant, it's the slant go. And so, I mean, they're masters of deception. Sark is one of the best in the business, period, much less offensively. And we're going to see that again this upcoming season. Just super difficult to defend. Now, Oregon is also in this conversation for me. I think they're one of the most difficult offenses to defend. Man, shout out to Will Stein. From UTSA, Will Stein. I think he is a head coach waiting to happen, to be honest with y'all. This is the number here I want us to all pay attention to. Last year for Oregon, the sack rate of their entire season was 1% of the snaps. It was an MC Hammer kind of offense. Can't touch this, all right? That was the mantra for Bo Nix. The reason why, yes, the offensive line was really good. There's no way around that. In addition, though, like Bo Nix knew where he was going with the football really quickly. This offense is designed to have your quarterback get the ball to playmakers and do it in a very, very quick fashion. Like, we're not sitting back there waiting for that big, mean edge rusher to get after us. Like, that's one of the reasons why I love this offense in 2024. In addition to that, they scored 41 points a game because of the playmakers they had on the perimeter. Get it to your players in space, let them be special, not much more to it. right? Now, this upcoming season for Oregon, they quietly, maybe not so quietly, have one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country. With Tez Johnson back, he's a 1,000-yard receiver. Evan Stewart, everybody and their mama wanted him in the portal. All right, they got some dudes. Trayshawn Holden, like they got some guys now to deliver the football to that are going to make plays. Now, the thing that Oregon does well, when they get you rocking and rolling because they've thrown the bubble, they've put it out on the perimeter, they've got the defense running sideline to sideline. Well, when you're running all over creation, they're just going to go, all right, now we're Big Ten mode. Now we're going north and south. Now Jordan James is coming downhill at you. Now Jay Harris is coming downhill at you. They got some backs, too, to make that happen. Dylan Gabriel, I don't know that he is a Bo Nix kind of runner, but he is also, and what I mean by that is Bo Nix is probably a little bit more of a, he is a bigger athlete than a Dylan Gabriel. But when Dylan Gabriel tucks it and runs now, like, one, he's more than capable of delivering the shoulder, and he's also a good athlete to make something happen in space. You saw that a lot at Oklahoma for him last year. So they were effective last year because of what they did schematically and because of the players that were able to execute. Same deal this year. The experience Dylan Gabriel has, his physical attributes, he's going to be able to make this thing hum. Oregon, go ahead and put them down for 38 to 40 points a game yet again in 2024. Now, Tennessee, we're going to talk about a little bit more in-depthly later in the show. But, man, they are so hard to defend. Like, schematically, I promise you, there's defensive coordinators all over the SEC that are looking at that Tennessee logo on their schedule and like, golly, man, we got it. All right, that we're gonna do this, Coach Hype. Okay, all right, we'll defend you if you're gonna make us do that. The reason why they're so hard to defend is because the way that they align, and we've talked about this a lot on this show, they make you cover every single blade of grass. The football field is 53.3 yards in width, sideline to sideline. Tennessee says we're taking all that space, lining our wide receivers up darn near to the hash marks, darn near to the tick marks, rather, excuse me. And so when that happens, it's very difficult to give a cornerback safety help. Like, it's hard for a corner to be able to fill in the run and then also be able to get back around and try and defend the over-the-head pass there, or the over-the-top pass, rather. And so what happens is you're pretty much stuck in man-to-man. Like, the way to defend this, and Georgia did it well a couple of seasons ago when they were on that run, is to play really solid man coverage, have lockdown corners. Easier said than done with the way that Tennessee recruits the quarterback position and the wide receiver position. So the other thing that factors in here for Tennessee is the tempo they play with. That's a massive equalizer, because you can't get organized as a defense. Very, very tough to get organized because we're going so quickly. We're running a play every 20 seconds. At that point, you can't sub. Like, you can only sub as a defense if we sub. So we either have to fake an injury, which it's unfortunate, but I guess it's the gamesmanship of it, or you have to call timeout. You don't really want to waste a timeout during a drive that Tennessee's rolling on when it's early on in the first half. You want to keep those for a little bit later in the game, but it is what it is. So you get disorganized, and also you get worn down. Like, we all know this, the human brain, when we become fatigued, starts to operate at a lower capacity. It's hard to remember your keys. It's hard to be in position. It's hard to have good technique. And so Tennessee, as well-conditioned as they are, that's when they really start to take advantage of you. So they're going to score a lot of points. Yet again, the added bonus for them this year, in my mind, is what Nico will bring to the run game. And again, we're going to break this offense down for Tennessee a little bit more intricately later on in this show. But the fact that you have someone who is a real deal threat to run the football at quarterback now, much like you did with Hendon Hooker, you get an extra blocker on design quarterback runs because the running back can now add in, and you already have a lighter box to run to. So that's going to be a factor, and that's going to give defenses fits because, again, they're already spread out trying to defend the pass, and then wouldn't you know it, Nico is running for 7 yards, maybe more, depending on what you have dialed up there. Now, Georgia, they're a little bit scary this year. They're always scary, but I think what's scary about them is typically Georgia, they love to be that 12 personnel. And you hear that said a lot on broadcasts and, those X and O shows. What is 12 personnel? 12 is speaking to the number of running backs and tight ends on the field. The first number is the running back. The second number is the tight ends. So one running back, two tight ends. You put it together, looks like a 12. Pretty straightforward. So when Georgia has 2 tight ends on the field, they're dangerous because the way that Georgia recruits the tight end position, they're able to block as well as be a threat in the pass game at a really high level. Like typically when you have a tight end out there, it's a big body. You're trying to add him in the run game. You're trying to make him a factor. And, like that's kind of a tell for a lot of teams. For Georgia, they might have 2 tight ends out there and feel just as good throwing the football downfield. Now, you don't have Brock Bowers. You don't have Darnell Washington. That was kind of the Super Saiyan version of this offense. But you still have a Lawson Lucky. You still have the transfer from Stanford. You still have Oscar Delp. Like there's still some dudes now. Jaden Riddell. They have a lot of dudes now that they can still make that sauce work if they want to. But why Georgia, to me, is a little bit more frightening this upcoming season, look at what they have in that wide receiver room. Dom Lovett, Dylan Bell, Arian Smith, London Humphreys, Colby Young. They've got a lot of talent in that wide receiver room, a lot of mouths to feed. But Georgia, if they want to, they can become a pass-first kind of operation this year. We've seen them do it in the past with Stetson Bennett. Carson Beck is more than good enough to make that happen. Georgia can hurt you running the football, but also based on the personnel, and I said this would be more scheme-heavy than personnel-heavy, but the way that you have to prepare for both now, or both maybe is the wrong word, you have to stress a little bit more now on what the Georgia wide receiver room can do. I think that's going to be just ridiculous to defend, if I'm being honest with y'all. And you got a quarterback to make it all go. So watch out for Georgia. They're very, very multiple. That's going to give defenses fits. Now, Ole Miss, you can't do a segment like this and not talk about Coach Kiffin and Coach Weiss and what they do offensively. They do a really good job playing with the eyes and instincts of a defense. Remember we talked about Texas and the RPO stuff they want to do. That's where Ole Miss lives, man. Like, more often than not, Ole Miss is going to have an RPO tag on any of their run games. What does that mean? Jackson Dart, a lot of the time, is going to be able to throw a pass even when a run play is called. He sees something he likes. He sees soft coverage with Trey Harris, taking handy from a baby. And that's not super uncommon to have that in the college offense, but I think the volume that Ole Miss is willing to do that at, that's what makes it really difficult to defend. They scored 32 points a game last year. I expect them to be even higher in that margin this upcoming season. Dart has a lot of opportunity to, I think, expand this offense on what they were a season ago because of his progress in the system, because of his progress being able to take another step in the RPO game. Because coming to Ole Miss, he had never done it before. Like, his first year at Ole Miss was his first time running the RPO system. That's becoming more and more rare. Because at the high school level, a lot of schools run RPO. A lot of colleges, even if you transfer from somewhere, you probably have the RPO stuff baked in there. So there's that part of it. But going back to the instincts part of it, when they run the football effectively, that's when the RPO really starts to open up. That's when it's, hey, that linebacker creeps down, that safety creeps down, pull the ball out of the belly, we're getting the ball out to Juice Wells, we're getting the ball out to Jordan Watkins, and we're striking up the band. That's how Ole Miss operates, and that's how they're going to operate again this upcoming season. Now, speaking to the eyes they mess with, a lot of pre-snap motion from Ole Miss, and they use it to their advantage because they'll run some jet sweep, they'll run some bubbles, similar to Oregon. They'll get the ball in the perimeter. They'll make you bite on a certain play that you think you have a gauge for, and wouldn't you know it, counter back the other way. So they play with the instincts, they play with your eyes, they play with your tendencies, and they do it, I think, as well as anybody else in America. So those are kind of the main ones I want to talk about here. However, there's a couple of other offenses that need to be mentioned in this discussion. Like, Lincoln Riley is arguably the best offensive mind in college football, arguably now. I'm just curious to see what they are with Miller Moss. That's why I'm not listing them ahead of any of these guys right now. Alabama, Ohio State, like I'll put it this way. I trust the directors of these movies. All right, Nick Brake, our resident movie buff. If you know that Martin Scorsese, however you say his last name, if you know he's directing a movie, I don't need to know the plot. I don't need to know the actors. I just know it's going to be good. Kind of the same deal with Kalen DeBoer. Kind of the same deal with Chip Kelly. The same deal with Lincoln Riley. I think for Alabama, we're going to see how they put it together. My gut, though, is it'll still be Alabama, punch you in the mouth, pound the rock kind of operation. But at the same time, pre-snap, they're going to do a lot to help Jalen Milroe. They're going to spread you out a little bit defensively. And they're going to also do some things to make the defense misalign with whether it's motions or shifts like Texas. They're going to give Jalen Milroe, I believe, a lot of what I would call easy throws. Like, he's not having to sit back there, put it over the linebacker in front of the safety. It's like 3 steps, know where the ball is going. It's out. Cool. 7-yard gain. Let's keep it moving. I think that'll be Bama. And then also baked into that Alabama smash mouth, like you have one of the best athletes in college football at quarterback for you in Jalen Milroe. You're going to let him cook. One of the reasons why I love Bama's offense this year. And then for Ohio State, same deal. We kind of have context clues as to how we think it'll work. I think it's going to be run to pass. Like, I think you got Quinshon Judkins for a reason from the portal. What I think will be really nasty is when Ohio State goes into those 2 running back sets, and you're back there in the gun if you're Will Howard, and to the right you got Quinshon Judkins, and to your left you got Travion Henderson, and it's just like, all right, 1, either of these guys could get the football. 2, we could do a little bit of some option game with Will Howard and his legs. We've seen Chip Kelly do that at different times in his career. I think it's going to be nasty. It's going to be nasty. And oh, by the way, if you want to overcommit to the run game, we have some of the best receivers in America to make you pay on that end of things too. So, toughest offenses to defend. Probably not an all-encompassing list, but those are the ones that come to mind. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. Watch those offenses. They all do things different ways. But at the exact same time, they put on clinics every single Saturday. And even the new OCs, even the new head coaches that are taking over some spots with some new personnel, still think they'll be nasty. Kind of par for the course there. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.